Hey 8-fitters, this is Chantel. I am going to be taking you through a power Pilates flow, so let's get into it. I want you to take a step to the back of your mat. You want the whole mat to be in front of you. We're going to have our feet hip distance apart, heels directly underneath your sit bones. We're going to start with a soft bend in your knee and then maybe just close your eyes for a moment. I start all my classes with just a couple of breaths to take the time to drop into your body. Get out of that head. So take a nice big inhale through your nose, maybe roll your shoulders up towards your ears and then down and back. And just take a couple of these, feel how they feel in your body. Ask yourself, how are you feeling today? How does your mind feel today? And just focus on your breath. We're going to take one more. And exhale. From here, I want you to float your arms up towards the ceiling. And then take a little side bend. So keeping both feet planted on the floor, you're going to lean over to one side, creating length in both sides of your body. And then inhale, come back through center, and then take an exhale, go over to the other side. Inhale, come back through center. We bring the arms down by our sides, nod your chin to your chest, and we're going to take a moment to pause here. You want your head to feel nice and heavy, and just be mindful of what your pelvis is doing here. We want to try and have the tailbone tucked heavy towards the floor. And then from here, as your head starts to feel heavier and heavier, your shoulders will start to roll forward. You've got that soft bend in the knees, and we're going to roll all the way down. Let your arms be heavy, and then you're just going to let your neck relax, let the crown of your head melt towards the floor. From here, you can bend your knees and then straighten your legs, just getting a little bit of movement into the backs of those legs. Taking an inhale to bend and then exhaling, extending. Take two more. Letting the crown of the head melt towards the floor. And then on your next one, you're going to find that micro bend in your knees. Drive your heels into the floor to grow yourself tall. Rebuilding your spine, bone by bone, piece by piece. We take an inhale, float your arms up towards the ceiling. We take those side bends again. Leaning over to one side, drawing it back into center, and then leaning over to the other side. Come back through center. We're going to bring the hands down by our side. Nod the chin to the chest, heaviness through your tailbone. Roll yourself down. Bone by bone, piece by piece. We're going to plant our hands on the floor this time, so bend your knees as much as you need to in order to have the base of your wrists down on the mat. We're going to slowly walk our hands out into a full plank, drawing our belly in towards our spine, finding length from the crown of your head to your heels. You want a soft bend in your elbows, and I want you to press away from the mat so you feel really stable through the front side of your body. And then from here, we're going to walk our hands back to our feet, lifting our hips up towards the ceiling. Reground your heels, roll yourself up, rebuild the spine. We take an inhale, open the heart, float the arms up towards the ceiling. We come back down, nod the chin to the chest, and we roll down, hands onto the floor, walk ourselves out. Find your full plank. We're going to take one more of those. Lift the hips up. Enjoy that stretch through the backs of your legs. And then ground the heels, rebuild your spine, open the heart, press the hands back, float the arms up towards the ceiling, and then we come down. Nod the chin to the chest. Roll it down, getting movement into your full body. And then we're going to find this full plank position. Lower your knees down onto the floor and then maybe walk it a little bit closer so that you've got your wrists underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. So from here, we're going to drop the belly, open up the chest, feel the collarbones widen as your tailbone lifts towards the ceiling. And then we exhale, tuck the tailbone, press away from the floor, feel your shoulder blades separate, crown of your head melting down. Take two more like this as we inhale. Open the heart forwards, lift the tailbone, and then exhale, press away from the floor. Take one more in either direction. And then exhale, press away, getting some movement into that spine. And then we're going to settle into our happy medium. So we've got that soft bend in our elbows, feeling really stable in this position. I want you to press away from the mat, hug your rib cage into the back of your body a little bit. And then from here, you're going to tuck your toes. We're going to take an inhale into the side of your body to prepare, and then exhale, draw your belly button towards your spine, float your knees off of the floor, coming into a hovered position. You can see that my knees are just 1 or 2 inches off of the floor. It's nothing too drastic. And then as you inhale, you're going to lower back down to the floor. Your knees will kiss the mat, and then you're going to exhale, draw those knees up away from the floor again. We inhale, lower down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. We want to press into all 10 of our fingertips. Keep creating space between your shoulder blades as we float up and down. We're working in both directions. We're just going to take 4 more here. Keep lengthening out of the crown of your head. We're going to take 2 more. Inhaling to lower down, exhaling to float. And then on your next one, we're going to hover and pause here. Hug the rib cage into the back of your body, and now you're going to draw your knee to the outside of your right elbow, bring it back to the position it started in. We're going to draw the left knee to your elbow, then bring it back. We're trying to keep stable through the rest of the body as your leg moves in and then back. Take 4 more. Take it back, reach it forward. The last 2. We've got 1 little layer here, getting into those arms. Find your hover and pause. We're going to bend the elbows as you drop your chest towards the floor and then press up. Lower down and press. Your elbows bend out to the sides at about a 45-degree angle. As you draw the belly in towards the spine, we've got 4 more. Lowering, press. Lowering, press. Last 2. Keep reaching long through the crown of that head. Last 1. Hold it here. Pause and just breathe. Maybe you feel that fire building in the front of your thighs. Maybe you want to bend those elbows just a little bit more. Look to the top edge of your mat. We're here for 3, 2, and 1. Lower your knees down to the floor. Maybe open them out a little bit wider. And we're going to sit our hips back towards our feet, reach your arms long, and just take a few moments for yourself here. Inhaling into the back of your body, and then exhaling. Take 1 more, inhaling into the back of those ribs, and then releasing. From here, let's bring the hands underneath the shoulders, tuck your chin to your chest, roll yourself up, drawing the belly towards the spine, and then coming back into that seated position. So from here, we're going to switch positions. Swivel your feet from underneath you and sit on your bottom. We're going to roll ourselves all the way back to come down into a lying position. Our knees are going to be bent up towards the ceiling, feet are hip distance apart. And then from here, I just want you to place your hands on your lower belly. So we're going to work through a couple of pelvic tilts here just to bring our awareness into this space. So I want you to take an inhale, drop your tailbone into the floor, and you might feel a gap between your lower back and the mat. And then take an exhale, rock yourself backwards and close that gap so that your lower back is pressing into the floor. We're going to inhale, rock forwards. Exhale, rock back. It doesn't have to be anything big. It's just finding that little pelvic tilt, rocking forwards, rocking back. This is the start of the movement for our glute bridge, which is coming up soon. So just enjoy this while you can. Exhaling to rock back, finding that abdominal connection in the lower part of your abs here, finding this flattening sensation through the front of your hips, trying to create as much width as you can in your lower back. Take 1 more and then bring your hands down by your side. We're going to exhale, flatten your lower back into the floor, drive your heels down so that you can roll your hips up. And then maybe once you get to the top of your glute bridge, you realize that you need to adjust your feet slightly. So maybe you want to bring your feet closer towards your bottom or further away. Now this is very different to a yogi bridge. When you're doing yoga, we try and open up that chest a little bit more. Whereas with the Pilates glute bridge, I want us to focus on keeping our rib cage nice and heavy and finding the opposition of floating your hips up whilst you're maintaining that heaviness through the rib cage. So from here, we're just going to melt down back the way we came, just reverse it. So the mid back will touch the floor, then your lower back, then your tailbone is the last thing to land. We take an inhale to reset, and then exhale, go ahead and rock back, drive your heels down, roll yourself up. You want to try and find as much length as you can in the front of your thighs here, in the front of your hips. The kneecaps are shining directly forward. And then we go ahead and melt back down. So take your time here. Feel what this movement feels like in your body. And we're driving through the heels to roll ourselves up, but I also want us to anchor at the base of our big toes. This will allow some stability through the knees so that they're not rocking around from side to side.
and melting down. We're going to take 2 more before we add on a few layers. Now, if any of these layers become too challenging for you or just not something that you feel like doing today, feel free to just come back to this movement and come back to the foundation, and we're going to add some more layers on top of this as we go. So we're going to take 1 more, and then let's go ahead and pause at the top. Find that anchored feeling through the base of your big toes. Your hands are just resting lightly. Maybe if you want to, you can float your arms up towards the ceiling if you're feeling pretty stable here. And then all we're going to do is lift your right heel. So you're going to press into the space between your first and second toe on the right foot. Left foot staying completely still, and you've got even amount of weight in both your legs. From here, I want you to focus on pressing down with your heel. It'll tap onto the floor, and then we're going to lift. We're going to press down and float. Press down and float. We're going to take 4 more like this before we go onto the left side. So try and keep as much of your weight evenly through your legs here. 2 more. Maybe your hands are reaching up towards the ceiling, maybe they're down on the floor. The next time your right heel comes down to the mat, leave it there, and we're going to move on to the left side. So float your left heel up and then press it down. The focus being on the pressing down rather than the floating up. Try and activate into that back of your leg a little bit more as you press that heel into the floor. Let's take 4 more, and then we're going to do both at the same time. Remembering to focus on that press down. Last 2, even through the hips, so your hips want to be even. Rib cage is still heavy. Last one, and let's go ahead and lift both those heels up. Then we're going to press down into the floor, maintaining this stable structure through the rest of our body. We're finding that slight tuck through the lower half of our body. We're driving through those toes now as we float the heels up, and we're sinking that rib cage down into the floor. We're going to take 4 more. We've got 1 more layer. Last 2. Last 1. Now it's your choice here. You can either keep your heels lifted or we can lower them down to the floor. It's completely up to you. From here, I want you to fan your knees out to the side. So you want to try and have your knees pointing to about 10 and 2 on your imaginary clock here. And then we're going to go ahead and squeeze those inner thighs together. Knees will touch. We're going to open out and then squeeze. Inner thighs, knees touch. Now, if your heels are down on the floor, or if they're lifted, it's your choice. I want you to focus on anchoring the bases of your big toes down on the mat. As we're opening our knees, they might want to lift. I want you to try and keep them pressing down into the floor as you fan those knees out and in. Let's take 4 more. Last 3. Trying to find as much length as you can in your inner thighs as you open those knees up to 10 and 2, and then squeezing them down. Last 1. Let's open up. And then exhale, squeeze together. Hold that for just another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Open those knees back out to parallel. Roll yourselves down, bone by bone, piece by piece, feeling each vertebrae touch that mat before your tailbone lands. You can hug your knees into your chest here for a moment. Maybe circle them around, getting some movement back into those glutes after that spicy little sequence. So from here, we're going to come back to that imprint position where you want to flatten your lower back into the mat. Hands are just relaxed down by your sides, and then you're going to float one leg into tabletop, knees stacked over hip, and then float the other leg up into tabletop, whilst maintaining that lower back pressing down into the floor. So let's see if you can almost find a lifted sensation through the tailbone. Your shins are parallel with the floor, more or less, and we want to ensure that those knees are stacked over the hips. From here, we're going to take an inhale and send your thigh away from your chest without changing the bend at the back of your knee, and then you're going to exhale, draw your knee back towards the starting position. We inhale, send the opposite leg down, and then exhale, we lift. So this is not so much about touching your toe on the floor, but more about sending your thigh away from your chest. So we inhale, send it away. Imagine you've got a golf ball sitting behind your knee, and we're trying to hold on to that. And then exhale, draw it back in. Inhale, send away. We're going to take 4 more. maintaining that heaviness in your lower back. Try and create as much width as you can and take it slow. Use this as a bit of an exploration to see how this feels within your body. Last one. Send it away. Draw it in. All right, from here, let's zip up your inner thighs. Knees together, ankles together. You've got one leg, essentially, now. And we're going to do 4, but with both legs at the same time. So let's commit your lower back to the mat, and then we're going to inhale, send both legs away. And then exhale, draw it in. Try and maintain a heaviness through the front of your ribs as well. This is not about how low you can get your legs, but it's more so about finding that core stability. So we're recruiting all of the muscles at the front, the sides, and the back to stabilize us here. We're going to take one more. Inhale, send it away. And then exhale, draw it in. Let's lower your feet down. Knees are going to be hip distance apart. Feet are planted on the mat. Let's bring your hands behind your head. We want to interlace our fingers here so the webbings of your fingers are knitted nicely together. Elbows are wide on your mat. And then let's just go ahead and float the elbows off of the floor so that you can see them in your peripheral vision. We're going to take an inhale here, and then exhale. Let's go ahead and lift our head and our chest off of the floor. And then inhale, lower down. So let's just find a tempo where you're going the same time up as you are down. Focusing on creating that width in your lower back as you lift. And then bring it down. We're just going to take 3 more. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. As you lift, see if you can't float those shoulder blades off of the ground as you find that heaviness in the front of your ribs, sliding them down towards your hips. Let's take 1 more, and then we're going to hold it at the top. From here, you're going to bring your legs into tabletop so that they're floating off the ground, knees are stacked over hips. Wide through the lower back, elbows out wide. And then let's go ahead, take an inhale, send your leg away from you, bringing in that movement that we just did before, and then draw it back up. We're going to lower ourselves down through our head and our chest. Exhale, lift, pause at the top, send your opposite leg away. So we're just combining those 2 movements now. Lowering down, let's exhale, lift. Inhale, send the leg away, thigh moves away from the chest. We exhale, draw it in. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, send your thigh away from your chest. Draw it back in and lower down. We're going to take 1 more on each side. So let's exhale, lift. Think about sliding those ribs down towards your hips as you come into that chest lift. We're working in both directions, up and down. We're going to lower all the way down, and then on your next one, let's lift up and hold up. We're going to take 4 toe taps here. So we're going to inhale, send the leg away. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, lower. Exhale, draw it in. 2 more. Find that commitment that you made to your lower back on that floor. Draw it in, and then lower yourselves all the way down. You can plant your feet onto the mat here. Just windscreen wiper your knees from side to side. Just releasing a little bit through those abdominals. And then we've got one more thing on our backs here before we change it up a little bit. So we're going to come into a deconstructed bicycle, essentially, which just means that we're going to do things a little bit slower. So get ready. We're going to bring those legs up into tabletop. Knees are stacked over your hips. Elbows are out nice and wide. We're going to take an inhale, prepare, and then exhale, lift your head and your chest. We find that lifted position where our shoulder blades are possibly floating off of that mat. The ribs are floating down towards the hips. And then from here, we're going to rotate. So we're going to turn to the right and think left armpit towards your right knee without moving the legs. And then we're going to inhale, come back through center, lower down. So we exhale, lift. Let's go over to the other side this time. We're rotating just through the torso. You can probably hear that it's a little bit hard for me to speak when I rotate. And then we lower down. Let's take 2 more like this, 1 for either side. Rotating, keeping those elbows nice and wide. Inhaling, coming back through center, lowering down. Last one. Exhale and rotate. So now we're going to add the legs. We're going to lift up, rotate, and lengthen the opposite leg. Then we're going to come back through center and lower down. Exhale, lift, rotate, think armpit to knee, and then inhale, come back through center, lower down. Let's just take 2 more on either side. So we're gonna lift, rotate. As you rotate, I want you to think about your bottom rib floating over towards the opposite hip. Exhale, let's lift. Rotate. Find that length in the front of your hip, and then we're gonna do 1 more on either side. Let's exhale, lift. Come back through center. And then lift. And rotate. Good. Let's lie down, hug your knees into your chest. If it feels better for you, you can always bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees butterfly out to the side. Just take a moment here. It's probably getting a little bit sweaty, getting into those abs. And then from here, we're going to come into our single leg stretch. So we're going to hug one knee in towards your chest, lengthen the opposite leg along. Elbows are out to the side, and then we're going to lift our head and our chest so that your nose comes towards the knee. Think about drawing your belly button down towards your spine, elbows are out nice and wide, and then float your leg out on a 45-degree angle. From here, we're going to switch and switch. Maybe you want to try and hold onto your legs a little bit lighter. Maybe you just want to clap on either side of your ankle. This will get into your abdominals just a little bit more. Otherwise, it's totally fine to draw that knee in towards your chest and just keep switching here. Find the length in the front of your thighs, and the whole shape of your spine isn't changing here. So we're working really hard to just keep our chest lifted as our legs move in and out. We're going to take 2 more like this. And then we're going to go straight into our double leg. So we're going to hug both knees into the chest, elbows out wide. Find a position that you can hold for about 4 or 5 reps. And then we're going to inhale, send arms and legs away. Exhale, sweep through. Inhale, reach long. Exhale, sweep. 2 more. Inhale, reach. Exhale, sweep. Last one. Inhale, reach. And exhale, sweep. Good. So from here, we're already tucked up into this little ball. We're going to stay here. We're going to roll back and forth until we can find a little bit of momentum. So we're going to just start rocking back and forth like a little egg, rolling back, trying to find a point of balance just behind your sit bones. Inhale, rock back. Exhale, forward. So we're going to inhale, rock back, and then exhale, find that balancing point. Let's just take 1 more. And then pause, find that balance. You can let your feet land, place your hands down by the sides of your hips, and then we're just going to come up to standing. Let's fold yourself in half, feet a hip distance apart. Let your head be heavy. Take an inhale. We're going to roll ourselves up, driving those heels down. Chin is the last thing to come up. And then from here, we're just going to slightly take our feet out a little bit wider. So maybe I'll come back into the middle. Toes are going to turn out to the sides slightly, just to about 11 and 1. And then let's draw ourselves up nice and tall. We're going to take an inhale, bend the knees, send your hips forward, reach your fingertips forward, hug the belly away from your thighs, and then we exhale, drive ourselves up through those heels. We inhale, lower, and exhale, drive. So we're tipping slightly forward from those hips as we send ourselves down. We drive through those heels to grow tall. We're going to take 4 more like this. I want us to see if we can engage through the sides of our legs a little bit more, sides of our booty. As we lower down, I want you to think about splitting your mat in half. So finding a little bit of activity through those feet to engage through the side of your hips. We're going to take 2 more. Inhaling to lower. Exhale, lift. We're going to take 1 more, and we're going to hold it down the bottom. Let's hug the belly in, away from your thighs, in towards your spine. Reach your arms forward. And then from here, we're just going to float the arms up and then sweep them back. Inhale up and sweep back. So we're not changing the structure of our spine here. We're working really hard through the abdominals to hug it in towards your spine. Float the arms up and down as we send that tailbone back behind us. Ribcage stays heavy. We're going to take 2 more. Last one. Let's hold the arms forwards or up wherever they are for you. Maybe they're down on your hips. And then from here, we're just going to pulse. We're going to take a few pulses here, bending through those knees and then driving up. We're We're here for about 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Take it down and hold it. You've got it. It's fine. I'm right here with you. Reach those fingertips forward. Draw those shoulders back. Hug the belly in. We've got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drive your heels down. Grow yourself tall, friends. Heel toe your feet back to parallel. Heels are back where we started. Take a nice big inhale. Roll the shoulders up and down. Float the arms up towards the ceiling. We're going to dive off an imaginary diving board, rolling yourself down. And let's take a moment here. Let the crown of your head melt towards the floor. Ask yourself those same questions that we did before. How is your body feeling? Softly bend your knees. Let your chest just relax onto your thighs. Take a nice big inhale through the nose. And then exhale it out. Take one more like that. And then drive your heels down into the floor. Roll yourself up. Take your time. Bone by bone, piece by piece. Give your shoulders a big roll when you get to the top. And that is that, team. I hope you enjoyed your Power Pilates flow, and I'll see you next time.